Welcome to Chai After Dark, everyone. I'm your co-host Shabnam with Sameem, my partner in crime here. And today we are reviewing episode 2 of Succession. So we had a dead week.
Yeah.
Why did we have a dead week? I've been feeling like crap. My voice is coming back. I might still sound a little congested, but I'm doing better enough to record. So here we are. How was your week?
It's pretty good. It's 4th of July week, so it's a little slow. It's really nice out. I think nobody wants to work, and I don't know. Tomorrow's 4th of July. We're going to release this episode
next Tuesday, so the 8th.
And it's a kind of a dead week, but I've been feeling so lazy. We were supposed to record this episode earlier in the week and release it during this week, but I think people can understand that we needed. This is the first time we've taken 1 week off in almost a year.
Yeah, and we needed the time off, and my voice wasn't handling it. Like, I would have gotten raspy. Literally, there's nothing wrong with my internet, and there was a call this week for work where somebody told me, you're cutting out. And I was like, that's just my voice coming out of my throat. It's not an actual connection issue. Is pretty bad, but here we are, we're back. So this episode's not going to come out until Tuesday the 8th, but we're recording it before 4th of July, and we're going to record a couple times this weekend, so we'll talk about our 4th of July shenanigans, I'm sure.
Yeah, I asked people if they wanted to hang out for 4th of July tomorrow, and white people were like, no, we're not going to do anything, we don't feel like it. That's crazy, right?
I feel like everyone's in a emotional slump. Like, you hear it everywhere. It's kind of crazy. I feel it myself. I feel like I can't find joy in things I used to find joy in, like trash reality TV. I've just been watching a lot less TV. I've been reading books to escape into books.
Educate yourself.
I don't know if it's education. I read Yours Eventually, which is kind of like a love story by Noura Maznavi, South Asian girl. Shout out to Noura. I read that. I'm reading a couple other books. Just kind of like some light, interesting stories. But yeah, I've been much more bookish lately than TV-ish.
Better read those books quick before they're not allowed anymore.
Exactly, right? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm getting a bunch of books on Amazon that are cheap to stock up, I guess. So
and if books aren't relevant anymore, then you can just use them, for a fire eventually when everything blows up. So I'm just kidding.
There was a book about that, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I forget. I read it in it's in Lord of the Flies or 1984 or Brave New World. One of those types of books has something about book burning. I can't remember which one. I feel like Brave New World, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. I always felt like the book burning thing was hilarious the last few years. I think people have moved on in this country to other boogeymen. Now we have a Marxist in charge in New York City. But remember when they were burning books in 2021? It wasn't even that long ago. And I remember during COVID, scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or whatever, there was book burnings in the United States. It was a political thing. Do you remember?
Interesting. Yeah. I do remember.
I feel like they moved on. That's not a thing anymore.
Moved on or moved up,
yeah,
right?
I don't know. Different kind of, they've succeeded, succession.
Speaking of, yeah, exactly. But speaking of Marxists in New York, so we will be releasing Mississippi Masala, which is one of Denzel Washington's first movie. Is it his actual first movie?
No, it's not his first movie. No, let me look.
Okay. It's one of his first movies, and we're releasing our episode on that on Thursday the 10th, and it's about Denzel Washington, a black man from Mississippi, falling in love with an Indian woman whose family lived in Uganda for multiple generations and then moved to Mississippi because of dictatorship taking over in that country. And it is directed, fun fact,
by who?
By Zohran Mamdani's mom, Mira Nair.
Nepo baby. Let's go. We need more South Asian Nepo babies.
Well, you see where his openness and progressiveness started out, right? That's where we're gonna see.
I don't know what else his mom has directed other than Monsoon Wedding. I watched that as well.
Namesake,
Namesake,
A Suitable
that's right.
Boy.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So she's done a lot.
She's legit. And whatever Mamdani, wherever he came from, at least he wasn't like, I want to be an actor. And like, that's all he, like, I'm not saying Nepo baby actors are bad necessarily because that's how they grew up, but he got into politics instead. I feel like he probably could have done other things.
Maybe, yeah.
We'll talk about it when we do Mississippi Masala next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more, yeah. But today, we're talking about Succession, episode 2. It's called Shit Show at the Fuck Factory. Was not expecting that title.
I know. Excuse your language. My goodness.
I know, right? So, sorry, I was looking at your...
What did I write?
What is going on with your notes here?
I think I was a little inebriated. I wrote, fuck is such a versatile word. But I had another joke, and I don't think I wrote down the punchline. So we can move on.
Oh.
I think it's
all right.
Like fuck factory. So when people are like, I'm going to fuck the shit out of you and things like that, it's like so literal, but it's also supposed to be a metaphor. God. But shit is actual literal, and then fucking can be literal as well. So I think I was going down a rabbit hole, and they use the F word like 40, 50 times a minute in this show. So I was just like, wow, what a versatile word. Kind of like Donald Trump, right? When he found the word fake and he's like, no one's ever heard the word fake before. Like, and I got really excited when, I don't know. I don't use fuck that much in my everyday, but I do use it on the podcast a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's like acha. It's like acha in Urdu, which is like, acha? Okay, sure. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So it could be a bunch of things. But I have to tell you a funny story about fuck being yelled by an uncle. I saw this video online of these like uncles fighting at the airport, and the uncle's like trying to cuss out this other uncle in English, and he's like, oh yeah, fuck you, I will come here, I will fuck you right here. And I think he meant fuck you. He meant fuck you up. But he was like, I will fuck you right here. And I was just like, oh my God, okay, I think there's a word missing, but sure. I guess
Indian uncles cussing is the most hilarious thing. Like, I've seen those videos, by the way, like road rage, and Indian uncle comes out and he's like, you fucking bastard fuck. It's just, that actually makes a lot more sense than fuck factory, because fuck factory could just be, you haven't watched episode 3 and 4, right?
No.
So this first season of Succession, they actually end up going to a literal fuck factory, and that's all I'm going to say. We can talk about it when we get there.
I have something to look forward to now.
Yes.
All right. So let's see. The only power-hungry boss would make you come in 4th of July weekend. What is going on with your notes?
These notes aren't meant to be read literal on the podcast, but here, let me tell you what I was thinking there too. So, look, I don't have a full-time job right now, but I do have a sales contract, right? I was telling you, and I tell people I don't work, and it's a complete lie when I meet people out and about. But I told you on Monday I couldn't record because I had to finish this fucking sales presentation. I don't actually present, like I'm doing like sales dudes work for them essentially, and then they go do the presentation, right? And I told the guy that's paying me, I'm like, when is this presentation? And he's like, it's the week of July 20th, but we want to get ahead of it. So I was like, oh my God, why do you need to get ahead of it? Tomorrow's July 4th.
By 3 weeks.
Literally, I was like, I can turn it in next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's why I wrote that. It's I'm getting paid a good amount of money for this contract, so I'm like okay with it. But that's why I wrote that. I was like, what kind of fucking maniacal person is gonna make me do this? And I'm not even an employee, right? Like I'm just getting paid a stipend. Also, they don't know about this podcast, obviously.
Okay, cool. Let's keep it that way.
Okay, let's not read my notes out loud anymore.
Look, I wrote. So now we're gonna get into it.
And then I wrote, we can banter for a bit or whatever, it transitions. So I think we can transition.
Yeah. Okay. So we bantered for a bit. So now we'll transition to the story. So Kendall races to the hospital because remember, last episode we just ended with Logan going into some kind of like heart attack aneurysm thing, right? So Kendall races to the hospital because he finds out from Lawrence, who's like, congratulations on this deal. By the way, your dad's in the hospital. And so he's rushing to the hospital, and him and Roman start asking whether Logan's room is in the best section of the hospital. So they're all like anxious and concerned, and they're kind of like taking it out on the hospital staff and like barking orders at them, but it's like not productive. But I feel like I can totally relate to this because
Yeah.
all of the siblings are reacting differently to the stress. They're trying to like make themselves feel better and take control of the situation by like doing stupid shit. And I like have been to the hospital with like my dad having strokes and could totally relate to this. And it's kind
Oh,
of
I
crazy
know.
because each sibling will like think something is important, and it's all just like to ease your own emotions. It's kind of fucked
Yeah.
up, to be honest, and it's very irritating because you get on each other's nerves a lot too. So
I feel like I need
Yeah.
to start being more like Kendall in my life and trying to be
barking
king of the
orders at people.
Yeah. Be king of wherever, king of the burrito shack, king of
Isn't
wherever I
that
go.
isn't that what Shiv called him?
Yeah, king of the
Shiv
hospital.
called him
Yeah, she
king of
called
the
him the next-
hospital. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I get it because if I was in that situation, just like you're describing, I do feel like my older brother would be like, not. I don't think he'd be barking orders, but he would be barking like, not in a super negative connotation, but just he would be talking. I don't know.
Yeah. And then
Sorry.
and then
Sorry,
they start
bro.
doing yeah, but then they start doing research, right? So some people do excessive research. That's me. That's what I do. I do excessive
Yeah.
research, like
Like
I
podcast
swear
bro
to God.
research.
no, like I swear,
Not that kind
I
of
swear
research.
on my life. I swear on my life, and my siblings could attest to this if they ever had to. But I started researching stroke and heart attack before my dad had a stroke and heart attack because I just felt like he was going to have a stroke and heart attack. No surprise, his health wasn't great. But my point is, I'm such an overthinker and such a researcher that I was like doing that before. So then when he started saying the symptoms, I took him to the hospital because I was like, there's something like this happening to you. It's crazy. So I would be the person that would be looking up, is it a hemorrhage? Is it a stroke? Is it an aneurysm? What's the difference between those? What are the chances of those for somebody with conditions like my dad? So yeah, that's me.
But doctors don't like that, right? When you ask them a ton of questions. But
I
sometimes
guess
they're like,
I
do you
don't
have any
care.
questions? And I don't have any questions because I don't know anything about medical health. You see what I'm saying? I think you're right. Like, I wouldn't have anything to
Yeah.
say, but you would. Kendall doesn't know shit, by the way,
Yeah.
because he doesn't do any research.
Yeah, Kendall just doesn't do anything until he's in the moment, and then he feels agitated and he barks orders, and I don't like that. Those kind of individuals annoy the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Hospital scenes, I already know what happens after this, but when I first watched this scene, I was like, oh shit, this guy's going to die and it's going to go to Kendall. I still thought like Kendall was going to become CEO, even though Logan Roy was like, go fuck yourself, essentially.
Kendall is such a man baby. I just can't take him. He's such an entitled man baby. It's really pathetic.
That's
So,
one critique about this show
yeah.
really quick is not critique, I guess, because it's a great show, but I think they're leaning a little too hard on the characteristics of the characters to make them negative. If there's going to be 4 seasons of this, I feel like they could have crept it in, except like the first show, you already know that Kendall's, like you said, a man baby. So there was
Yeah.
no slow creep or anything. It just kind of went into it. All 4 kids suck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So then Greg is at the hospital. Remember, Greg is the cousin, and he calls his mom, and she's like, so did you get the job? And he's like, well, I think I have a job, because that's what he said before he had his like stroke or aneurysm. But now he's in the hospital, so he's not really sure. And then Shiv comes and like asks him for a 20, which is like the only money he had, so she could get something from the vending machine. And he's like, okay, I just got robbed by her. That was like pretty funny.
Like, character-wise, when Shiv takes the $20 for him, he's too pussy to ask for it back or to say, hey, I don't think it gives change or whatever. She just fucking takes it. And then it just kind of shows when you're that wealthy and rich, like, you don't think people need change back. Why would you need change back from a 20? That's like nothing.
Yeah, I know. It's really crazy. So Kendall's taken in the hall by some of the company folks, and they're telling him they need to plan for a case when, like, if Logan is incapacitated. And they're like, we're planning, it's not yet a war room, but we're doing like a pre-war, like in case we need a war room. But then they've basically set up a war room in some like unused wing of the hospital, right? Which again, I'm like, this is such rich people shit. Like you're just going into a random part of the hospital. And then they also want to control the narrative because earlier in the day, Logan fired Kendall and put Roman in his place. He's like basically listening to them and trying to figure out how to get out of it. And he's like, well, since Dad didn't finalize anything in writing, and clearly he's been acting a little different since this morning, they should just disregard it. Which I was like, okay,
Yeah,
like
easy for you to say, Kendall.
Rich people games,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, like you do talk about your dad on this podcast.
Yeah.
Would you think about repercussions and will and trust and money? Would that be the topic of conversation if you were in a situation like this? That's why I wrote my note. Being rich and powerful seems like it's a lot of work. Like it never ends. Like you can't even breathe and be like, okay, my dad's in the hospital. Let me just sit here and think about it. Let me take this in. Not like take it in like a positive experience, but just like kind of sit with it, right? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
War room, press. I'd be like, who cares, dude? Who gives a shit about this shit? Also, press in this country moves on. So if there's like some crazy negative story, that story's like gone within 2 or 3 days. Like Diddy just got found guilty yesterday, and we're like, okay, cool, let's move on.
But he got found guilty by like 2 of the lesser charges, and he got off on 3 of the big charges.
Oh, he got off all right. He got off a little bit too much. And apparently that's not too illegal.
Yeah, apparently people just find that a little freaky and nothing wrong with it. So there you go.
Hey, Diddy at the Fuck Factory.
That was good.
But yeah, I don't know. Would you? I don't think you would do that. But I think like an hour later, then yes, I think wills and money and trust issues and sibling drama would probably come into play eventually at some point.
I think it comes into play sooner than you think. Something comes into play, right? Because even if you have like no money, then you're worried about the like person not being able to work, or the person, how are you going to pay for the person's care? If you have some money, which is how I would categorize my family, then it's like, okay, we need to put a power of attorney in place. My dad started like forgetting stuff, and he was like trying to give us like passwords for his like accounts and stuff. So before like can't remember them anymore. So like then that stuff was happening. And we had to we literally had to get an attorney draft like a POA for my mom so she could handle his stuff if needed. Or if you're really rich, then you have to deal with this stuff like media spin and blah, 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 whatever,
Yeah. This stuff is going to get crazier as well when he actually reawakens.
Yeah. So let's see. Where were we?
And the same, we were going to talk about Connor. He brings Willow, his girl. Like,
oh,
it's
yeah.
so inappropriate.
Who's like... She's like 19 or something, and he's like 50. It's like, or I don't know, maybe she's 22 and he's 50. I don't know, but it's like at one point Shiv makes some joke about, "Are you gonna help her with her homework?" Or I was like, "Yeah, that's funny."
Since we always bring up Friends, remember when Ross dates Emily, or not Emily? Sorry, Elizabeth. She's like 20.
The girl.
He's a professor.
Yeah, his student.
Yeah. I mean, holy shit, because she was like 19. I don't even think she's 21 because he asked her for a drink and she's like, I'm not 21. I remember that from the Friends episode.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Hey, Ross and Connor actually seem to have a very similar vibe.
That's actually true. Oh my God,
right?
You're so right. Yeah. You're so right. Okay, so then what's hilarious is Roman and Shiv decide to like go off into some teaching seminar room in the hospital and to like have a private conversation, and they start arguing about like what to do about their dad. And then Shiv kind of like hits him on the shoulder, and then he slaps her, and then they get into this cat fight where they're like fighting with each other. But then she puts him in a headlock, and then he grabs her around your waist, and like they fall to the ground. I'm like, what is happening? It was so crazy.
Hey, white people gonna wait, right? Like I don't know, dude. I don't think I would fight with my grown sister today. That would be so strange. Maybe. No, not even maybe. Yeah. I don't even think I would have done it when I was younger. What about you?
The last time I like slapped my brother was when I was 10.
Hey, you putting Khurram in a headlock today would be awesome. Next time I'm at your house, maybe you guys can get into a tiff.
I don't think so. But yeah. So I don't think we would physically fight in the hospital. If we had to, we would save that for back at home, maybe. I don't know. But like,
I think the most
yeah, no,
it would
I
be
can,
like a slap, right? Like a sister slapping a South Asian boy. I think that would make a lot of sense. I think
yeah.
wrestling like this is purely a white person thing. And hey, you guys can correct us. I don't know, because there's plenty of aggression and animosity growing up with siblings in our community, but I've seen a lot of physical fights, and it's always been like white people as adults. Well, no, I should say no. That's not true. Of course, everyone fights. I'm talking about like the sibling kind of rivalry.
Siblings. Yeah, interesting.
Like
I don't
we
know.
keep saying
I
it.
think
White Lotus, we said the same thing. If it's in here, then it came from somewhere. So it's a thing.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if because like South Asians will be like passive aggressive instead, they'll do other.
We have many different ways.
Jab. Yeah, we have other tools in our toolkit. We don't need to be this direct.
Yeah. When our kid gets married, like if my daughter gets married, somebody that wronged me 27 years ago, I'm not inviting them to her mendi. That's what we would do. Something so shitty and so stupid and small.
Yeah, exactly. So, so then Greg asks, so after the fight or whatever, Greg asks them what he can do for them. Like he's like trying to be helpful, right? Because he's trying to like get his job and keep his job and whatever. So Marcia requests him to go to the house and get plaid slippers. In my notes, I wrote slippers with dogs, but I think she said plaid slippers and clothes for Logan. And then Roman asks him to bring back trust papers, like the trust papers that I guess their dad drafted the morning of. And so Greg fucks off to do that. And Logan's kids are like all annoying each other in the waiting room, but they're handling the stress and anxiety, like I said, in different ways. This was honestly, this episode was triggering for me because like
just the drama.
Like, you know how the drama and the siblings handling anxiety in different ways. You know how I've told you before on this podcast and you've like told me that it's fucked up for me to say that like I hate when people cry. It's literally because of being triggered in this situation, like in this kind of like hospital situation. Like
you are a cold person. You're
I
at
just
the
feel
hospital
like
and you're like, hey, don't cry.
I'm like, we have shit to do. You can fucking cry later, okay?
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. I know maybe this is a me problem, but it's just how I feel. I'm sorry.
Episode 1, you hate angry people. Episode 2, you hate criers. Hey, I have a crying story, by the way, from last year in San Diego.
Tell me.
So
okay,
I think I've told you this before. Oh, shit. Hold on. I think I can tell the story. It's fine because people might be listening. But I play rec league basketball. But I took this season off. But last year I was playing. And it's a co-ed basketball league because I'm in my mid-40s. But then kids in their like 20, they're like 21 and they go to San Diego State. They show up and they like run circles around you because they're so young. But this girl on our team, she was like one of the founders of the team, I guess. But she hasn't played the last few months. I don't know what happened to her. But last year after one of our seasons, you know Sage, you met Sage before.
Yeah.
He was playing that season and he takes so many fucking shots. Like he like doesn't pass the ball at all, right? Like typical Sage. And then after the season, we're like huddled up and we're like, good season, everybody. She just starts crying and we're like, oh shit. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is like rec league basketball. She's like, nobody passed me the ball. And she kept crying and stuff. No. And then Sophie was there because she came and watched. And then we were walking back out of to the car. And then I was like with another friend of mine that was on the team. And then Sophie. And then I was like kind of giggling. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why'd you start crying? And then Sophie told Carly, my friend, she's like, yeah, dad hates it when anybody cries. So I think I'm on your side.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay.
I was like legitimately annoyed. And then I think my friend Carly was sort of like, damn, you're an asshole, bro. So I don't know. I kind of agree with you, but I also understand it's like we talked about last week, it's just a different emotion. And I think people do use it
I know.
Manipulate though.
Oh, sure. People can use it to manipulate. People can also just use it because like it's an impulse for them and their feelings in that moment, which I get. I think I'm just like, a very like overthinker, a person who wants to like figure out a solution to everything. I'm like that kind of person, which maybe that's probably annoying to other people, but you know,
That's
to each their own.
that's sort of like what a dude would do, right? Like if a woman asked her boyfriend or husband, or she's complaining about something, we go into like,
Yeah.
oh, what can we fix? Is there a problem? Can I do something? I think you're very similar, but then a lot of them will just say them, like they're a different species, women.
Yeah.
A lot of them will just say like, no, I just want you to listen. So they don't actually want anything sometimes, right? And I'm not just talking about the relationships, but maybe someone just wants to cry and they don't want a solution. But it sounds like you're saying crying doesn't solve anything.
But sometimes it does make people feel better, so I shouldn't discount that. But to your point, my dad now in his dementia, whenever he sees my brother, he asks my brother where his little brother is, even though that's me. So my dad thinks I'm a boy.
Little
so,
boy.
You know, maybe, yeah.
Maybe you should cry a little bit more.
Yeah, I guess I am not crying enough. So Greg ends up going back to the house to get these slippers and papers and all this other stuff. And he doesn't have money to pay the cab because Shiv took his 20. And then the doorman hasn't received word of him coming. So the doorman's like not letting him in. And the doorman's like, I'm not going to pay the cabbie. And so he's like, you guys need to figure this out. You guys, like, one of you owes one of you money and it's not me. And like, he's like freaking out. And then all of a sudden, Mrs. Roy, like Marcia, calls the doorman and lets the doorman know that like Greg is coming, even though Greg reached there like a few minutes before. And then, you know, the whole thing gets resolved. So she just needs to make a call and like all his problems go away. But before that, like he's helpless and shit out of luck.
There's a glaring hole here. And where is anybody's assistant? Like everybody would have at least one assistant that they could go get these clothes or the trust papers or something. So utilizing Greg or Craig. Is it Craig, by the way, or is it Greg?
No, it's Greg, but Logan called him the wrong name.
Oh, that's right.
And
yeah,
so,
and I kept, But utilizing Greg for this is another plot hole because somebody would have somebody to go get those fucking clothes.
Marcia.
Right?
I feel like Marcia would have someone.
Marcia would have somebody. There's no way Marcia is doing her own thing. She's the third wife that married into a wealthy family. She didn't marry into this family to make her own phone calls.
Yeah, she didn't marry into this family for love. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
She seems to love him.
Sure.
Gross.
Would she love him if he was poor?
He's a gross looking man. I don't know. That actor, he's an old white dude. I totally get it. But he's like so unattractive in these first two episodes.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Actually, to be honest, I haven't even looked at his looks.
His face.
Because I'm just like, okay, like, yeah, it's just kind of like indescript old man, right? Like
I thought you were going to say,
man.
to be honest, he's pretty hot.
No,
that's what I wasn't
going to say that.
I thought you were going to argue with me.
No, I'm not going to argue with you, but I will look now next episode so I could tell you if I think like he has beautiful eyes or something. I don't know, but
keep going and then look at
shout
my
out
note.
Brian. Okay, shout out Brian Cox. So, Tom is trying to propose to Shiv.
Yeah,
right. And so he tells Marcia that he wanted to talk to Logan and ask for Shiv's hand in marriage. But then Logan, you know, is now incapacitated in the hospital bed. But he has this weird ass conversation with Marcia where he's like, do you think I should just like ask his body? Would that be polite? Because then if she asks me later, I can say I asked his body. Or even if he dies, like I could, at least I just asked his body. It's like the weirdest, stupidest conversation. And it's like, you are such a moron. Like, shut the hell up.
He's such a putz, and that's why he picks on Greg, right? Because he's like an insecure little bitch. He's the insecure,
and he's the
little
lowest
bitch
on the totem pole.
Yeah, he doesn't need somebody else to come in here. Like he wants to be their bitch, but he's actually well regarded. Like they actually give him a pretty powerful position eventually. So Tom is like he knows exactly what he's doing. And if Greg could marry Shiv, he probably would.
That's true. Yeah, that's hilarious.
It's probably true.
See that they're not this or he could. Just kidding.
We went off on cousins too much in the past.
I know.
We've taken a long break. We'll bring it back up during Mississippi Masala.
Yeah. Well, how that would work in Desi culture is Greg would have to be really hot, and then Shiv would sacrifice his lower status for his hotness, and he would sacrifice being married to a weird ass person for the status. He would like buy into it. That's how that would work. Don't you think? Am I wrong?
I mean, it's always imbalanced. Yeah. What are we
Yeah.
gonna say, man? These people are literally people that are in my phone contacts, and we come here and we say stuff, but they know they married their cousin, so it's not like I'm saying anything crazy. I'm not even really
Yeah.
commenting on it. We're just saying it exists.
Yeah. Okay, so the doctor tells the family that basically Logan had a deep hemorrhagic stroke. They argue about the siblings again. They're arguing about his age, his state of health. And then Shiv says that they will consider, all the options as far as like whether or not he's fully incapacitated and who should take over and when they should take over and how they should present it to the media. And then Marcia takes her big balls out and she says, I have the final say, and I'm his next of kin and his proxy. And this is what's going to happen, bitch. Sit your ass down. So I thought that was really cool because this was the first time we see Marcia like putting her foot down on anything.
But which way does you think she wants to go? Pull the plug or keep him alive? It wasn't very clear on what her decision would be.
Yeah, well, she definitely wanted his care to remain in that hospital and for him to be cared by those doctors because Shiv was saying maybe we want a second opinion and whatever, right? And then she was basically like, I want his care to stay here. And then she was going to kind of sleep on it to like make other decisions. That's how I took it.
Yeah. I mean, she seems somewhat normal. And then this next note I wrote, just because it's been in the news and I really wanted to bring it up, but Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan, I'm like, what would she do
Sugar
if
baby?
Bill Belichick? Exactly. Like, if he's on the deathbed, she's pulling that plug. You know she is. She's pulling it quick.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's just gross, man. You've seen their pictures, right?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of like Anna Nicole Smith and her husband, right? And Anna Nicole Smith did outlive her husband, but not by much, even though she was like, I don't know, 60 years younger than him or whatever she was, which is actually really, really, really sad.
You kind of take on the personality of who you marry, right? So she became an old woman and she wasn't going to live that long. And I don't know if this is true or not. And there's many different younger women that have married older men, and I don't think they last that long just because by virtue of being with an old person, you're kind of already 1 foot in the grave. I'm sorry, like it seems like there's a mindset to this. So with Marcia, that's why I wrote, what do you think their age difference is? Because she is a little older. She's not 25.
20. Yeah, I think their age difference is like 25 years or something.
Yeah, because Bill Belichick is Logan Roy's age in this show.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine Logan Roy, somebody like Willow comes in, like Connor's girlfriend, like that's Logan Roy's wife? That would be they should have.
That's insane.
They should have went full like insane and had like a 24-year-old wife with him. That would have been so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, love is love. You can love anybody, or people get married for different reasons too, right? Like security or validation or financial security or whatever. I'm not going to judge it, but I will agree that I think that whenever you marry somebody, you guys can't help but rub off on each other. No pun intended. Like your personalities. Like, no, like you're gonna like come to some equilibrium on how much you socialize, on how much you like do certain things, right? Like that's like part of the like whatever people say, like adjusting to marriage or whatever, right? So I don't know. I think like, yeah, if you get married to an old person, you're gonna come to an equilibrium of like acting a little older, right? Like you can't not.
I don't know. No comment. As I just commented.
I mean, you have some life experience associated with that.
Yeah, but it's not like this, man. I wasn't like some powerful person.
No, I know.
Like,
yeah. And you were also relatively young yourself. Yeah.
We were both pretty young.
Okay.
I didn't meet her on an airplane next to me like Bill Belichick did. That's the story.
Okay, so Kendall tries to get Frank to stay on as COO. So Frank was the original COO, but Frank doesn't want to, even though Kendall says like, there's no proof yesterday happened, just stay on. And Frank is like, no. which Kendall like it gets annoyed by, and Frank is like, I just don't want to. And later, dun dun dun, we're gonna find out why. But he can't convince him to stay on. So then he's like, okay, well, if I can't get Frank, because he wanted it to be Frank and him, like Frank and Kendall running the company. So he's trying to think about like what to do next. And then Roman tries to convince Shiv to sign the trust by saying Connor and him are on board. And I don't think, is Connor on board? I don't even know if Connor's on board or not. Or I don't know if he just said that.
Connor was like, whatever you guys want, I'm okay with it. And
yeah.
He wants to do whatever is easiest. I think that's what he had alluded to.
Yeah. So Shiv looks annoyed and he says, don't try to hit me again because I'll fuck you up. And then she fakes him out and he like smacks his head. He flinches and smacks his head against the hospital door. That part was hilarious. I was like, oh, it was so good. It was so good. And then Shiv calls Greg and tells him if he's bringing the papers Roman told him to bring, he's bringing the wrong ones. And he asks like who he should listen to. Should he listen to Roman or should he listen to her? And she basically said, just say you can't find them. And Craig then like calls his mom for advice to figure out who to listen to while he's eating the snacks in their house. It's like the weirdest thing. You're right. It is a plot hole and it's weird.
It would be an assistant. They wouldn't send some rando kid. Like I would never let my cousin, who I just like got reacquainted with, go into my house and I'm not there. Hell fucking no, dude. I know what.
But you have to remember.
Hell no.
Yeah, but they do have staff there. So it's not like
he doesn't have full reign. I get it. But I would, because that's what staff is there for. They're there to make sure that nobody knows what you are asking them to do.
Yeah. They could have gotten, I think you're right. Like they could have had the staff prepare the stuff and he just go there and pick it up.
Or a lawyer, like at this kind of, and they introduced more lawyers, by the way, throughout this first season. So yeah, anybody could have went and picked this up. I don't know. I mean, you've seen Devil Wears Prada, right?
Yeah.
Meryl Streep. She was making Anne Hathaway do anything she wanted. That's her assistant, not her cousin.
Yeah. This is true. So then Kendall tells Shiv and Roman that he wants to inform them as a shareholder and a board member, because Roman is a shareholder and Shiv is a board member, I think, that he's temporarily taking over. And Roman says he wants to be made Roman's like, I was made COO. And Kendall says that's evidence that Logan was loco in the coco, meaning he was getting these effects of the hemorrhage earlier on in the day. And then Kendall says, we need to control the narrative. And Roman says, you probably yell that when you come. And then he does a whole demonstration.
I mean, Kendall was already hard from his wife, right? So,
he hugs her. Yeah. He's a weirdo. I don't know. He's such a weirdo.
It gets so much weirder, Shabnam. Like in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth episodes, it's so over the top, and we're gonna start talking about enmeshment again, by the way, which is kind of gross. I'm sorry, I didn't write it. White Lotus, Succession. By the way, whoever wrote Succession also wrote. No, sorry, I was about to say White Lotus, but it's not Mike White. My bad.
Okay. Okay, so Shiv asks their lawyer if they can drag their feet on letting the public know Logan is out of commission, while Tom sits there and shoves cake down his throat. And then basically the lawyers kind of say not really, but maybe kind of. And so they're taking that as a yes and running with it. Kendall calls Lawrence to tell him, your pecker is in my pocket. And he wants to make sure Lawrence doesn't try to take any revenge or like back out of the deal just because Logan's in the hospital. There's so many like dick references in this episode, I just realized.
People are scared of talking about dicks, especially men that are very manly. I think they actually back off. If you make a dick reference in a business meeting, then they're like, oh shit, I don't want to talk about this. I'll just do what he says. I think there's something to it because men are so insecure.
Interesting.
Right? Like you start talking about dick and balls, and like my roommate that used to show me his dick.
Yeah.
If you've listened to our White Lotus episodes, it's like a power play. Because there's only one way. There's only one thing you can do back, and it's to show your balls. It's nobody wants to do that, right? So I think this is a power move, but It's like for used car salesmen and realtors, right? It's not. But
Yeah.
Kendall doesn't know any better, so that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Good call out, by the way.
Yeah. And also now your roommate is doing other power plays in government.
Yeah, look, we're going to talk about this during Mississippi Masala, but I've been holding on to this shit for a long time. But hey, I went to UC Davis, and my roommate there's only 12 or 14 people in government and ICE because Donald Trump likes to run a lean-ass team, apparently. And one of those dudes was my roommate freshman year. Shout out. He wasn't so crazy. I would venture to say he was like a wide-eyed liberal when he was 18, 19 years old. And I don't know what happened to him. But yeah, I'm one person removed from Donald Trump every given day in my life.
See, if you had only married his sister, maybe you would still be liberal.
Let's hold on to that story next week. But yeah, there's a lot more involved here. And it's not Stephen Miller.
Okay. Well, yeah, because he's older than you, obviously, I think.
No, Stephen Miller, I think.
Oh.
Let me see.
Okay.
I was,
sorry.
Let's keep going,
Yeah. I was thinking Steve Bannon, but anyways.
Yeah, Steve Miller's 39.
Okay.
That's really pathetic.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, so where were we? Kendall tells everyone that Voltar has run a story about Logan. So Voltar is the company that they're buying that Lauren works for, and they've run a story about Logan. So basically, Lawrence is trying to like fuck them over, and the story is entitled "Shit Show at the Fuck Factory," which is the title of the episode. So he basically says that he thinks he's the logical choice to be the, head of the company. And Shiv and Roman tell him that Logan clearly didn't think that he was ready, so he should not even be an option. And Connor agrees with Shiv and Roman. Ouch, that's gotta fucking hurt like hell.
Yeah. That's why I kept thinking, like, the show is called Succession, and I don't know why I was so hell-bent on Kendall being the CEO. I thought he was, like, going to take over, and then it was going to be, like, a fuck factory for the rest of the series. But no, they just booed him.
Yeah. So then Roman calls Greg and tells him to hurry up and get there. And he wants Greg to bring a sweater also that smells like Logan so he can be reminded of how his dad smells, which is both, I don't know, endearing and weird. Like I was like... that you can also, your dad's there, you can smell him, he's not dead. It's kind of weird. I don't know.
I'm not smelling no 80-year-old man that just had a heart attack. That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, it's not my grandfather or father.
Yeah. So Kendall's baby mama comes to the hospital, and her and Kendall have like a moment, right? And he tells her the drama of what's going on. She's like, wow, your family's so fucked up. And she hugs him goodbye, and he gets a hard on. This is what you were talking about. And she's basically like, seriously? And he's like, it's just adrenaline. And it's like,
hey.
Okay.
No. This is like Speed when Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock have so much adrenaline that they have to hook up. There's no way around it. So yeah, I agree with Kendall in this situation.
But Kendall didn't just survive a high speed chase with a psychotic murderer. His dad is dying in a hospital bed. So you'd think this wouldn't happen, but I don't know.
Maybe the war room is making him horny.
Maybe, yeah.
Right? All that money and the proximity to power.
Yeah, the excitement. You're right. It's probably that. The adrenaline of the possibility of becoming the head of the company.
When I used to give sales presentations, I was hard the entire time. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. We'll leave it in.
Okay. I'm just like...
I have previous clients that listen to this. So
you didn't even work from home the whole time, so that's pretty bad.
Hey, Wall Street, that's how it was when you went to an advertising agency or something. You had to have a lot of energy, right? It's just adrenaline, like Kendall says.
Yeah. Okay, so Tom runs after Shiv. She's so busy. He like runs after her and he's like, "Will you marry me?" And she's like, "What part of a sterile hospital and my dad dying screams romantic gesture to you?" She's such a heartless bitch sometimes. And then she's like, "Yeah, fine, I'll marry you, but you better do it properly later." And then they kiss and she says that her family's a shit show. And then he goes, "Our family." I'm like, this is so like dysfunctional. This is like the beginning of like a toxic. Yeah, so horrible.
We already talked about it, but then my note was like Tom's only objective is money and power, and it becomes women as well in the next few episodes, which is like really strange. This show goes off the rails really quick, but I don't know. Like we've talked about this so much, but like the power component of people, it's so relevant in today's world, and people look for any amount of power. And Tom going after Craig is just. It just kind of shows like anybody beneath you, they're going to have a tough time in life in general when you have people like Tom around, right?
Yeah.
Like it kind of sucks for people. And Greg has millions coming towards him because of the family connection. But if it was just some dude, then people are just like stuck for life.
Yeah. It's crazy. So Greg finally comes back with the stuff 900 years later, and he asks Tom if he's heard anything about Greg's job. And Tom is like a huge dick to him, just like you said. Tom's basically like kisses everyone's ass except for Greg because Greg is beneath him. I feel like this is something we can relate to as Desi people in a Desi community. Like certain Desis will totally kiss people's ass if they perceive those people as above them in status, and then totally treat people like shit who they perceive below them in status.
In the same sentence, they'll do that. And we're not going to talk about Jeff Bezos and that Venice wedding, but you saw those pictures, right? Like it was just so like weird and plasticky, and it seemed like a simulation almost. It seemed like very Hunger Games. But I don't think it's like a Desi thing, obviously. Like it didn't at a certain point your color, skin, race doesn't matter, right? The power and money that you accumulate matters, but you're totally right. Like what are you going to do with a powerful person? Anyways, just kiss their ass nonstop. They're not going to do anything for you.
So Kendall and Roman decide to pitch that they should be co-interim leadership as CEO and COO. And I think like that was kind of Kendall's way of like, I think he knew if he proposes, Roman will agree, and then Connor will just go along, and then they'll get Shiv to agree too. So it was a good move on his part. But yeah, like Shiv and Connor decide they want to like think through other options, but they argue that the others in the company might try to take over if they see that the family's allowing them a window to take power in the interim. And so they kind of like, they're like, okay, let's keep it in the family, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we already talked about, I know you were reading that note.
Yeah.
Tweedledee and Tweedledum. We've already made fun
Dumb
of these
and
people.
Dumber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, what are we going to say
Yeah.
at this point? Like, it is what it is. Power begets stupidness.
Yeah. What does it say? Strong, like, strong men make weak. I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, it's obvious.
They're weak.
Yeah. They're weak. Yeah. Like, it is. It's insane. But yeah.
So in the war room, there's a lawyer, and the lawyer takes Kendall aside and tells him basically now that like he's the interim CEO. By the way, there's a huge debt problem in this company. We're $3 billion in debt because Logan took out a loan in the 80s and then adding to the already considerable debt of Waystar. And he says if he talks.
I think he's saying in the 80s, this makes no sense, by the way. Logan took out a loan for $3 billion, added it to the debt sheet, and then if the stock hits 130, which is, they're talking about the stock, then the buyback, the company will be eviscerated. But $3 billion from the 80s, unless there's like significant interest on it, how would that bankrupt someone like Waystar? These guys are supposed to have 30, 40, 50 bill, right? So I don't understand this part. I think the number's off.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, there must be significant interest on it. Like you don't take a $3 billion loan without significant interest, but I don't know. And basically the banks know that Logan is not creditworthy now. And so Kendall, though, doesn't have the credibility or reputation to get a loan on his name and any like business, that he's created at this point, because he doesn't have anything. So he's kind of just like, what the fuck? And he finds out, obviously, that the COO, Frank, the old COO, knew, and that's why he didn't want the job back. He was like, peace out, bitches.
I'm already rich. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the kids end up saying goodnight to their dad, and the episode starts to end. Marcia kisses him on the cheek, and she curls up in this recliner next to his bed. Greg's sleeping in the pews of the hospital church. What is this? I don't get Greg. Like, is this like
he has nowhere to live?
Is this part of his?
Yeah.
Or he's just trying to stick around to leverage every and any opportunity, maybe.
Yeah.
Like the siblings like catch naps in their ride homes where the driver is driving them, and then all of a sudden Logan's eyes open and he's gonna awake next episode.
Evil doesn't die, right?
Yeah, never. So there you go. That is episode 2. And we will be back with episode 3 next Tuesday. And on the coming Thursday, we're going to have a Mississippi Masala.
That's right. And just to close the loop, Succession writer is Jesse Armstrong. And the reason why I got confused is because he wrote Mountainhead that we just reviewed.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
Very
so Succession is Mountainhead guy. And then also, I really want to review this movie one day, and I think we could do it on one of our Thursday rotating movie episodes. Four Lions with Riz Ahmed. It's the most obscure satire on a terrorist. This is from like 2004 when we were high alert on terrorism in the UK and in the United States, but it's just about Riz Ahmed joining like a terrorist cult and literally terrorizing London. It's such a dark comedy because it's actual like terrorism, but it's a complete slapstick comedy. So I can kind of see where Succession gets its humor from. This guy, Jesse Armstrong, he's British, by the way. He's written some other things that we reviewed and watched.
There's the tea.
There's the tea.
There's the tea time.
Cool.
All right. So we will see you guys next time. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Jai After Dark, and follow us on all podcast platforms. Rate us 5 stars and write us a little review on Apple. Please, nice stuff only, gentle. We love you. If you want to give us criticism, you could just email us. Thanks.
Damn. Okay. Gotta go.